Hey folks, welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to High Speed Rail Explained. While many people think about Italy as the home of the likes of Ferrari and Lamborghini for their fast cars, far too few people think about Italy for its fast and beautiful trains. Italy has an interesting history with regard to high-speed rail, and keeps innovating to this day with a network just as undersold as you might expect. Let's get into it. If you're not already, consider supporting the channel on Patreon to help me bring you more content like this video. Get direct access to exclusive transit chats and for behind-the-scenes content. You should also consider following me on Twitter and Instagram for all the latest updates. I want to start this video by reiterating how underappreciated not just the high-speed rail, but the various tram networks, metros, and beautiful urban landscapes of the country are. For all the problems and struggles the country has faced, it's incredible how good a lot of the transit being built is, and not for premium prices. A lot of what I've learned about the country has been the result of incredibly good Twitter threads from Dr. Marco Chitti, so I recommend you give him a follow on Twitter. Italy's first foray into what we now know as high-speed rail was with the ETR 200, a train first introduced in the late 1930s. The ETR 200 was innovative for its time with a top speed just over 200 km per hour. While not particularly attractive by modern standards, it was quite aerodynamic for the time, and featured other unique features like Jacob's bogies. In fact, two of the world's oldest high-speed lines existed in the early 1900s in Italy, serving passengers between Florence and Bologna, and Naples and Rome with the ETR 200 trains, with the ability to travel as fast as 200 km per hour. The Florence to Bologna route in particular had at the time a base tunnel, which was the second longest in the world at nearly 19 kilometers in length. Roughly 40 years later, Italy took the next big step, opening the Direttissima in 1977. This was a dedicated high-speed line traveling between Rome and Florence. The line has a top speed of 250 kilometers per hour and has a very unique feature for high-speed rail: DC electrification at 3000 volts. This is something which is quite common throughout Italy's rail network. In 2005, the first section of the line between Rome and Naples opened with a top speed of 300 km per hour. This line would be almost as long as the Direttissima, though unlike the Direttissima, the line was electrified at 25 kV AC. Next up came the Turin to Milan line, with the first Turin to Novara section opening in 2006. As with the line between Rome and Naples, the line has a maximum running speed of 300 km per hour and 25 kV electrification. In 2007, the Padova to Venice and Milan to Treviglio sections of the Milan-Venice high-speed line opened. Both of these lines are electrified at 3000 volts DC. However, the line can be used for full 300 km per hour speeds and 25 kV AC electrical power when it is no longer needed to be used by 3000 volt DC regional trains. The next year, the Naples to Salerno line opened, extending services south of Naples. This extension is under 100 km long and has a maximum speed of 250 km per hour for much of its length, slowing down to 180 km per hour on the approach to Salerno. This line is also electrified at 3000 volts DC. Later in the same year came the Milan to Bologna line, with a full 300 km per hour top speed, linking the two northern cities in less than an hour. The line is electrified with 25 kV alternating current power. In 2009, the Bologna to Florence 300 km per hour line opened with 25 kV AC electrification. This line is almost entirely in tunnels. A few days later in 2009, the lines between Rome and Naples and between Novara and Milan were put into service, both with 300 km per hour max speeds and 25 kV AC electrification. A few years later in 2013, a new 10 km long Center City high-speed rail tunnel was opened in Bologna, allowing faster travel through the city center. And finally, the Treviglio to Brescia section of the Milan-Venice line opened in 2016, which has a top speed of 300 km per hour and, you guessed it, is electrified at 25 kV AC. There are quite a few lines being constructed as well as being planned, which will finally connect the islanded pieces of the network together. Construction started for the Milan to Genoa line in 2011, although parts of it were temporarily halted due to funding problems. Construction has since restarted and is scheduled to finish in 2023. The line is incredibly important for freight, connecting the port in Genoa to locales to the north. The remaining portion of the Milan to Venice high-speed line between Brescia and Padova is currently under construction for a completion date in 2026, with high-speed trains using the low-speed line between the cities in the meantime. Construction on the Naples-Bari line opened in 2015, shortening travel times between Rome and Bari by around 25%. Works are scheduled to finish by 2022. Next up is a planned route between Milan and Chiasso, linking up the high-speed rail networks of Italy, Switzerland, and Germany, and the route will include the already completed Gotthard and Lochsburg base tunnels. You're probably wondering about what a base tunnel is, even if you've heard of some of these names before. Base tunnels cut through the bases of mountains and tend to be incredibly long and deep. The Gotthard base tunnel is the longest and deepest in the world at over 50 kilometers long and with a maximum depth of over 2 kilometers. Yes, kilometers. To say the project was complex would be an understatement, but I'll talk more about that in my Swiss Railways Explained video, so make sure to subscribe for that. The next project is the Brenner Base Tunnel, yet another project that will connect Italy's system to other countries via Verona, with links to Innsbruck in Austria and Munich in Germany. This will be one of the most important links in the larger network, named the Trans-European Transport Network, an interconnected transport and infrastructure network spanning the whole European Union. The tunnel is already substantially excavated and is scheduled to open for freight and passenger service by 2028. Freight service is quite common across many of these new transcontinental links, and I'll address that a bit later. To be clear, the past two projects are more of a case of services being run as infrastructure is mostly in place or is in construction as we speak. The first of a few planned lines is the line connecting Lyon, Turin, and Chambéry, which will link the Italian and French high-speed rail networks. The plan has received quite a lot of pushback with a total cost of over 26 billion euros, especially with the Montambien base tunnel, the largest project on the route, costing over 8 billion euros. But the government has decided to go ahead with it, with a tentative completion date in the late 2020s. There's also a potential line between Trieste and Ljubljana, the capital of Slovenia, which will link Italy's network to the Slovenian Pendolino network, allowing for more rail development in Eastern Europe and more trans-European links. As it turns out, like some other countries, Italy has more than one high-speed rail operator, with both Trenitalia and NTV operating high-speed rail services. The two different operators operate separate rolling stock, although most are under the Elettrotreno family, which broadly means EMU in Italian. First for the trains used by Trenitalia. Trenitalia refers to their trains as Le Frecce or the Arrow in Italian, and these are roughly equivalent to TGV in France or AVE in Spain. As it turns out, these trains were previously branded Eurostar Italia, no relation to another Eurostar. Under the Le Frecce brand, there are three different classes of service based on maximum speed. Freccia Rossa, or Red Arrow trains, operate with a top speed of 300 km per hour, and they are the most premium service operated by Trenitalia, serving mostly dedicated high-speed routes. Much like in other European countries, these services sometimes operate on conventional lines to reach various destinations. The ETR 500 is the older model used on Freccia Rossa services. They were introduced in 1993 and were manufactured by Ansaldo Breda, who have since become Hitachi Rail Italy. These trains come in variants with support for up to 3 different electrical standards, with 1500 volt DC capabilities on some trains, with original models only supporting 3000 volt DC electrification. The trains have a maximum speed of 300 km per hour and do not feature tilting. It's also worth noting that these trains were ordered in multiple generations, with Bombardier and Alstom assisting Ansaldo Breda in the later order. It's also worth noting that the ETR 500 is a local hauled train. The new Freccia Rossa model succeeding the ETR 500 is the ETR 1000. This is truly the Ferrari of trains. The ETR 1000 began operations in 2015 and was jointly developed and manufactured by Ansaldo Breda and Bombardier. The top speed in service is still 300 km per hour, however trains have operated at nearly 400 km per hour, which is the design speed of the train, the highest in the world for regular service. As with the ETR 500, the ETR 1000 is capable of operating under a number of electrical standards, allowing it to operate across Europe. Unlike the ETR 500, the 1000 is a multiple unit train. This train has a special place in my heart as the only train from Bombardier's Zefiro line of high-speed trains operating outside of China, and the fastest train developed by Bombardier. The next step down is the Freccia Argento, or Silver Arrow. These trains operate with a top speed of 250 km per hour. Most trains in this series are part of the Pendolino tilting train family, and many of the services run with these trains are not fully high speed, with trains running on conventional tracks for some substantial part of their journey. These services are operated by the third generation Pendolino, or ETR 485, a dual-power tilting electrical multiple unit manufactured by Fiat's rail division, or the new Pendolino, the ETR 600 and ETR 610, a multiple-power tilting electrical multiple unit manufactured by Alstom in Italy, as well as the ETR 700, a multi-power non-tilting electrical multiple unit manufactured by Ansaldo Breda, serving the route between Milan and Lecce. Next up are the trains operated by NTV. The AGV 575 is the multi-power electrical multiple unit train used for NTV's Premier Italo service, and these trains built by Alstom are not used by any other system in the world. The Italo service launched in 2012 and has a top operating speed of 300 km per hour, though trains have a design speed of 360 km per hour. The AGV is also notable because it's a multiple unit, unlike virtually all other French high-speed trains. The ETR 675 is the other train used by NTV on Italo services. Also a multiple unit manufactured by Alstom, the trains have a top speed of 250 km per hour and are multi-power capable, although they don't look as cool as the AGV sets in my humble opinion. Italy is well known for developing the original Pendolino train, where Pendolino is Italian for pendulum, which makes it clear the mechanism which is used to create the tilt. Tilting trains were developed from a desire to implement higher speed services on conventional rail lines, reducing the cost of implementing high-speed services. Although a common misconception, tilting is primarily for passenger comfort, not for physics-related reasons. Quite uniquely for a high-speed rail system, Italy utilizes 3000 volt DC on some lines. Though if you've been paying attention, you may have noticed that lines electrified at 3000 volts have a top speed of just 250 km per hour. This is because the lines provide insufficient power for higher speeds. One of the most interesting aspects of Italy's high-speed rail system is that in addition to the state-owned train operator Trenitalia, the system is also operated on by NTV, a first-in-the-world private open-access operator of high-speed rail. NTV is proving quite successful, with a respectable share of the overall ridership as well, with 9 million riders in 2015 compared to Trenitalia's high-speed rail total of 40 million, for a total of 49 million passengers and growing. This is an incredibly impressive number given ridership was less than 10 million per annum 10 years ago. One very unique service operated in Italy is the recently introduced Mersitalia High-Speed Freight, a service operated using modified ETR 500 high-speed passenger trains. Such service is meant to incentivize freight movement by rail, a major EU developmental goal, as Western Europe lags behind North America in terms of tonnage freight movement by rail. One place Italy has been surprisingly successful is the export of high-speed train technology to other countries. As you might have guessed, this is all in the back of the Pendolino, a set of trains adopted in numerous countries. The new Pendolino has been exported for use in Switzerland, Poland, Spain, Finland, and Russia, and China via technology transfer. The ETR 460 has been exported to Finland, Slovenia, and Portugal. Pendolino technology developed in Italy is also used on the British Rail Class 390 from Alstom, who acquired the tilting technology behind the Pendolino. In fact, even the newest Amtrak Avelia Liberty trains are using Pendolino technology to hopefully improve speeds along the winding Northeast Corridor. That being said, not everything which was exported was good. The Ansaldo Breda V250, a high-speed train developed for use in the Netherlands and Belgium, was quite possibly the train that broke Ansaldo Breda. The trains were delivered years late and faced so many technical problems that they were fully retired after just 1 month of service. They were also very ugly. As it turns out, Trenitalia subsequently purchased all of the trains and turned them into the ETR 700 sets mentioned earlier. Like in many fields, it's clear Italy has a substantial and lasting impact on the development of high-speed rail via its development of tilting train technology as well as other contributions. The country is linked by an underappreciated, high-quality network of high-speed train services, which is among the most liberalized in the world and which features some of the most impressive rolling stock in Europe. And things are set to change massively with an expanded domestic network and new connections to countries to the east, north, and west. Italy has yet to see just how far high-speed rail will take it. I hope you enjoyed this episode of High Speed Rail Explained, but before you go, I'm letting the audience decide on the next episode I make. I've set up a poll in the YouTube community tab for the next system to be featured in High Speed Rail Explained, so who will it be? Saudi Arabia, Taiwan, or Russia?